Good afternoon and welcome. My name is Anna Palacio, and this is the power of gentle talk. Today is Sunday, and we have yet another wonderful topic, something that's very informative and very important. What we'll be speaking about today is called trigeminal neuralgia. Is universally acknowledged as one of the most painful afflictions known to adults, and it affects thousands of Americans. And I didn't know this. So we're very lucky today because we have a couple in our studio. The name of Ian and Kim Lewis. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. And they're going to share with us the condition that their daughter, Lauren, has been suffering with for quite some time, for 4 years. So I guess let's start at the beginning. How did this all begin?
Lauren, it seemed like Lauren was being seen in the hospital quite a bit for what they were trying to diagnose as migraines, and they were coming all the time and lasting for long periods of time. But they were far more intense, and nothing was helping them go away. For you and I, a migraine might be a dark room with some Excedrin migraine or a Percocet or something, and it would be we'd be okay in a few hours. But this pain was lasting 48 hours, 13 hours, different amounts of time. Then they started to think it was her teeth, so they sent her to a dentist and to get her teeth looked at and everything, and they just could not figure out what was causing her pain.
And that's very common when trigeminal neuralgia starts. A lot of doctors misdiagnose it and they think, well, let's have your teeth looked at, because trigeminal neuralgia affects one of three parts. It's either the forehead and eyes, across the top of the jaw and into the nose area, or down at the bottom of the jaw. Lauren's is down at the bottom of the jaw, and that's how they automatically think, well, maybe it's your teeth. Let's take a look at that. Some of the doctors see later on teeth have been pulled unnecessarily, thinking that's the root of the whole problem, and it's not. That's unfortunately, there's no real test for trigeminal neuralgia. You actually have to have other things crossed off the list, that it's not something else.
And you did say that there were thousands of cases in the United States at this time. However, there's thousands of misdiagnosed or undiagnosed cases as well. So we suspected that number is far higher than what you might have suggested.
So how long did it take before they analyzed or they discovered exactly the condition is trigeminal neuralgia?
That's a very good question. I want to say that Lauren went through this pain for 6 to 9 months before she saw a neurologist, and the neurologist was able to finally pinpoint it as trigeminal neuralgia.
One of the ways that they pinpoint it after they've done everything else, unfortunately, is they do an MRI of your head, and they pinpoint the trigeminal nerve, and when it comes up out of your brainstem, it splits into three parts, like I said, the upper, the middle, and the lower, and there's a blood vessel that sits right next to it, and they use the MRI to diagnose how much of the blood vessel is being touched by the nerve, how much they're interacting, and that's how they start the process of coming along to believe that it's trigeminal neuralgia.
And do you know if anyone's specializing now in this type of condition?
There's a few. There's a
That's
doctor
good to know.
in UCLA, at UCLA Medical Center, who's one of the foremost in the country. He's done quite a bit of research on it. He's well versed in everything about this.
And I know that she's going to be having surgery, and I'm going to talk about that a little bit later. What I want to ask you next is, how does this affect her life?
Wow.
Well, in your research, you may have seen that trigeminal neuralgia is also known as the suicide disorder.
Yes, definitely.
It's nicknamed that because about 25% of the people that have trigeminal neuralgia, diagnosed or undiagnosed, cannot tolerate the pain to the point where they will take their own lives. I read a story by a doctor who said that he had a patient come in and he had a bag with him, and when he got up on the table, he took some insecticide in a bottle out of the bag and he set it on the table, and the doctor said, you know, what did you bring the insecticide with you for? And the gentleman said, fix this, or this is what I'll be drinking when I get home,
Wow.
because I can't take this pain anymore.
Lauren has lost several people that she knows through her support group over the last 4 years because of this condition. It's gut wrenching to think about, but it's a reality. They have come up with a statistic that 1 out of every 15 to 20,000 people in the United States have trigeminal neuralgia, which, if you think of the 380 plus million in this country, that's a staggering number of people. And those are the ones that are diagnosed with it. We're not even looking at the ones that haven't come across the fact that this is what they're suffering. So the number is up there.
Now, who is taking it upon themselves to create awareness of this? I know we're doing our part today, but do you know
Families.
Just families, individual families?
There's some support groups out there, but they're all just individually coming about because it's not really new, but it's been so misdiagnosed that there's just not enough awareness out there yet for people to say, wow, maybe that's what I have.
I would say individual families who have family members that are affected by this feel so helpless that the only thing they can think of to do is to in some way gain awareness. And there's no national campaign for trigeminal neuralgia. There's no fundraising. There's no, as far as nationally. There are several private, fundraisers and walks and stuff like that to gain awareness and to raise money for research, but
Nothing national.
Nothing national.
And do you know, if it's affecting a certain race? Is it a certain country more than others? Do you know any of that?
The national average at the time that we were doing all our research, it typically affects males over 50. It's more males than females, typically over 50s. Diabetes is typically one aspect of something that is involved with it, but TN, trigeminal neuralgia, is a condition that you can be born with and not know it. Basically, the nerve at the back of your skull, or on the side of your skull, has a coating over it. All your nerves have a coating. And if your nerve that coating is weakened by either disease, MS is one of the diseases that weakens this.
Lyme disease.
Lyme disease is another one. It doesn't make it automatic you're going to have it. I have a friend with MS, doesn't have TN. But it's one of the symptoms that can cause TN to happen. And what it is the blood vessel ends up pumping against that vein, or against that nerve, and that's what causes the short out in your nerve that triggers the pain. And it can happen, we'll discuss some of the reasons
That was my next question.
in the episode can happen, but there's no condition. It's not like someone's going to get it, but somebody else isn't. Nobody knows exactly why. You can't test for it in advance because you don't know whether or not that lining of that one nerve is so thin. There's no way to say, oh, you're going to have TN in 10 years. You don't know. Nobody knows.
Right.
So now, let's talk about, I read during my research for this interview, that even something as slight as maybe even putting makeup on, or a breeze, a soft touch to the skin could trigger?
It can be
That's exactly
anything.
right.
Yeah. The people who suffer through TN, they don't know what's going to be the next trigger. Lauren has had it be where she's put on makeup and boom, she gets an episode. Brush your teeth, brush your hair, a kiss on the cheek from your son, which is exactly what has happened to her before from our grandson. A cold breeze, that's a big trigger for her. Unfortunately, she lives out west, up in Oregon, so that can happen easily. She wears scarves and headdresses in order to cover up her face when she goes just from the door to the car. Flashing lights, especially police, red and blue, are the two triggers for her. May not be for everybody. loud horns, train horns, sirens, like in a fire alarm goes off. It can be almost anything. Now, we have seen an attack actually happen, and it is the most heart-wrenching thing you've ever seen in your life. It's
The simple things
Okay.
too that you would normally, chewing,
Yeah.
brushing your hair.
taking a drink,
Yeah, it's
anything.
just-
Let me ask you this. Let's say people that are listening, our audience, or myself, I'm in a restaurant. How can I detect that someone's going through a TN, episode?
You
What-
can't.
How could you help them?
You cannot help
You
them.
can't help them.
You,
There's-
as a bystander, could not help them. As a matter of fact, to look at her face, and I brought you some pictures.
Sure, definitely. That's,
To look at her face, you would never know
no?
that she is suffering in any way, shape, or form, because trigeminal neuralgia sufferers have learned to cope with their circumstances and put on a happy face even when they're in the most excruciating pain. I have something that Lauren wrote
Sure.
here. I can share whenever you're ready. That would explain to you better in her own words what a day in her life is like, and how things even just as simple as the 4th of July can affect. She knows in advance what her day is going to be like, but so that no one else knows what her day is like, she will, put on a happy face and push
Or
push
find a
through it.
reason not to go somewhere.
Right.
Make up an excuse so that she doesn't have to put herself in a situation she knows is going to be a possible trigger for her, which really ruins a lot of the events that she would want to be part of.
Most of them. My concern, as I'm listening to you speak, is with all the violence that's going on now, and at times overreaction from people, pulling out guns, pulling out. When she does have an episode, could it be violent?
No.
What does happen? Maybe this is a good time to ask. What does happen in an episode?
We were at the store with her one time, and we opened up the freezer case, and the cold air came out, and it hit her. Just that little tiny breeze came out, and she literally curled up in a ball and collapsed to the floor of the grocery store.
Wow.
It doesn't become an episode where you don't throw your hands or go crazy. You literally, all you want to do is curl up in a ball and cry, and that's her knees buckle, and she drops to the ground. If she has the opportunity to get out of there, even with the pain, she'll go to the exit door and do whatever she has to do to get out and get away from whatever the noise, the cold breeze, whatever the situation is. A lot of times it doesn't happen. It hits you so quick, it's instantaneous, and you just drop to your knees. And the episodes can be 1, 2, 3 seconds long, or they can last for indefinite. Nobody has there's no reason why one episode is short, one is long. It just is whatever's happening to that nerve at that very specific moment makes it happen that way.
Alrighty, why don't we learn about a day in the life of Lauren? If you feel up to reading it.
Absolutely.
Okay.
I'd love to. Those of us living with TN live, suffer, and have to deal with horrendous pain. We miss days, weeks, months of work, sometimes having to lose the ability to commit to work altogether. We miss the ability to do and be all that we were before TN entered our lives. We initially make plans, as always, volunteer work, activities with our kids, families, dates with our friends, only to soon realize we can't make plans at all, as the fear or pain of TN can rear its ugly head at any time. We let people down. At least that's how it feels. We are overwhelmed by the pain. We're frustrated with our care by doctors and specialists. We take heavy-duty meds that take time to work, during which we're drowsy, grumpy, not feeling ourselves. Each relapse of pain has us going through this several times until pain control is reached, or not. These meds cause all sorts of side effects which make us loopy, forgetful, unable to remember normal words during a conversation. We feel stupid, embarrassed. We're forced to fake a happy smile, and inside we're crying out in pain and begging for some relief. Then we feel guilt for having to rely on others, our spouse, our parents, our child, our friends, our family, to do what we can no longer do for ourselves. everything changes. Sometimes we lose our sense of who we are, other than a TN sufferer. Our close family and friends feel helpless and wish they could do more. Ours, for the most part, is an invisible disease and not well known. Sometimes we can feel like we are constantly explaining to others we don't look sick, so we feel like people around us think we're making it up. We feel lonely, isolated. We try our best. We research, join support groups, journal, pray, meditate, seek alternative therapies, and we hope. We lose hope, and we hope. We hurt, our face hurts, and our hearts hurt. Those of us lucky enough to have successful procedures or long-term remissions and know what it's like to live again, we are appreciative of the days that allow us to function once again. Always, though, there is that fear that it will come back. TN hurts beyond our imagination's capabilities to accurately describe it. Emotionally, the side effects are many. The time of year has come that only a year ago I loved more than anything. Now I dread it. The chilly air makes the simple tasks like collecting leaves with Andrew, riding a bike, or simply going from the house to the truck extremely painful. Those of you who have to go through a TN attack with me, I apologize. Those of you who have lent me your arms or hand for me to squeeze in pain instead of tearing at my hair or digging my nails into my palms, I thank you from the bottom of my heart. I want you all to take a second and look at your life. Every second you have is precious. You never know when you may not have the opportunity to enjoy time with your kids, your friends, or your spouse. I love you all.
Thank you.
That was written right after she was first diagnosed 4 years ago, and it's true to the point. Every word of that is so painfully true.
Just due to the time factor, I want to make sure I get as much questions asked. And let's talk about Andrew a little bit. How does he cope with seeing mommy go through this?
He's an amazing 8-year-old little boy. He has learned through the last 4 years how to be there for his mom, what to do, how to, to be the support when she needs to get up because she's on the ground now, or whatever it is that she needs, he's right there with her, and he knows some of the triggers. He'll, help get her to the car, or whatever it is that's, going on. He's just an amazing little boy. Really
It's become part of his life.
Yeah.
It's just become part of what he knows to be normal.
Mm-hmm.
And he's 8 now. He'll be 9 in October. But so if you think about it, he's been dealing with this in the very formative years of his life. So it's become. He has a heart the size of Texas for his mom. His mom is his, hero, and as scared as he gets when she goes into the hospital every time, he must be consoled, and nightmares that she's not going to come home, and it's so hard on him, and yet he's so attentive to her. It's I can't say enough about him.
He's like an angel too.
He really is.
I want to ask you about medication. How does insurance help or not, or how accessible or expensive? How do you handle as far as getting her the medication? Is it very expensive? Is it something that insurance is covering?
We are not part of that part. We don't know the aspects of because she lives in Oregon. We haven't delved into that part with her. I can tell you that she goes to the ER numerous times, and they say, she'll come in and they'll be like, "Oh, you have a migraine." No, I don't have a migraine. I have TN. Can you go research it and then come back and talk to me? And they come back, "Oh, you have a headache," and they don't seem to understand. She knows what works.
So what do they give her when she goes?
Well, that's just it. They think she's drug seeking, so they're hesitant to give her anything. And they'll say, "Are you sure this isn't a migraine?" And they'll give her Toradol and Benadryl, like they would treat yours or my migraine when we go there. But the only thing that really works is IV pain medication. She can do well temporarily on a dose of Dilaudid, but it goes away. Dilaudid doesn't last. So.
And you just hope it lasts long enough for the episode to end, so that you don't come out of the pain medication still having your episode, because you don't know until it's gone.
Right.
Well, unfortunately, we're down like to 4.5 minutes of our show, so I want to ask you a little about, I wish we had a little bit more, but we'll have to follow up and see, because I know she's getting ready to have a procedure.
Yes.
So can we talk a little bit about the operation?
Absolutely. This is going to be her second brain surgery. It's MVD, microvascular decompression. The first one, they put a Teflon sponge between the blood vessel and the nerve. It failed. They did 2 gamma knife surgeries. Both those failed, where they go in and try and deaden the nerve by cutting part of it. This one, he's going to actually, the neurologist is going to go in, make a quarter-size incision or cut in the skull. He's going to actually open the nerve itself and increase the amount of fluid inside the nerve to try and create more of like a balloon effect around the nerve endings, so that they get more of a cushion. And they'll probably end up replacing that sponge so that the nerve can't sense the pulsing of the blood vessel against it. Now the possible downsides of all this happening, there's a large chance, or a higher percentage, since the auditory nerve and the optical nerve are right next to there, that she could become deaf or blind on the left side of her face. She will probably lose some sensation in that side of the face, kind of like Bell's palsy. But this is a relatively new procedure that they're working on now that was not done the first time.
I have to ask how much pain she must be in if she's willing to lose her sight or her hearing, or even the feeling on that side of her face.
Of course, I mean,
Willingly.
to give
Yeah.
up,
Yeah.
sight, just to get rid of the pain, that has to be a lot of
Yeah.
pain.
Mhm.
Now, she lives in Oregon, I
Mhm.
understand?
Yes.
Has she always lived there, or she
Mhm.
lived at one time, I'm
Well,
assuming here?
we're originally from Cleveland,
Okay.
and we moved here, and she ended up getting married to a gentleman in Portland.
Okay. The reason I asked was, I was wondering if maybe that was a better state for her for some reason, but no.
Just
No,
by
it's
chance. There's
just
a great,
marriage.
yeah,
That's
just
us.
marriage. But they have great doctors out there. We've met some of the staff out there that she dealt with the first time, and we're very confident, but obviously very worried.
Is there any 1-800 number that maybe, if you're aware of it, I know that she's not here present, that maybe you'd like to suggest to the audience, if anybody would like to call somewhere to get information? I mean, I have one, but I don't
I don't
if
have
there's
it
someone
on
in
me, no.
particular.
I don't.
Yeah, unfortunately, I'm unprepared with that. I do know that on Facebook there are some trigeminal neuralgia support groups.
All right, let's do
Those
that.
have been very helpful to Lauren, to just have other people who suffer, from the same
Yeah.
disorder to talk to. So,
I noticed you have a blue, very nice blue.
Teal, yes.
Nice teal.
Teal is
Yeah,
the
it's
ribbon.
not quite, yeah, okay.
It's the ribbon for trigeminal neuralgia. So
That's
I
something
made
also
sure.
that we need to beware of, that when we see a teal ribbon, that is for TN.
In October, I think it's the 7th every year, is TN Awareness Day now.
Oh, October.
I believe it's October 7th.
October 7th, keep that in mind. Okay, well, I would like to thank you, number one, for sharing your story. I know this is difficult for everyone concerned. I would like you to hold up a picture of Andrew and his mom, just so everybody knows what a brave little boy he is, and of course your daughter, it goes without saying. And we will upload this interview to my YouTube channel, which is under Anna F. Palacio. Oh, he's gorgeous. He's 8, he's an angel.
thank you.
So I want to thank you very much. Please come back again. I would like to find out more how the operation turned out.
Absolutely.
And we all know that it's going to be successful. And just keep hold that immaculate concept for her. I want to thank my audience. Thank you so much for tuning in. We're now on WJNO 1290. We did the crossover from WBZT, which is also great, but we're now here on Sundays at 1:30. My name is Anna Palacio. This is the power of gentle talk. So when in doubt, go within your heart, that is, because I firmly believe that your heart is the true seat of intelligence. So keep an open mind, and we'll talk again next week.